Snipers. Masters of stealth, precision, and sitting in their own filth without moving for days on end. Snipers are the scourge of the battlefield. There's only two real words you can use to describe them: lethal and annoying. Nobody likes snipers, except maybe snipers, and even then, they probably don't like other snipers. And nobody likes centrists either, but that's not relevant to the video. I mean, after all, why would anybody like snipers? On a fundamental, conceptual level, they don't really levy themselves towards the concept of fun. They're often much more effective at much longer ranges than other roles or weapons, including the ones you're likely carrying, so you'll often be fighting snipers at a range where you cannot meaningfully retaliate, which isn't really a fight. In many games, a shot from a sniper is lethal outright, or is nearly lethal, maybe requiring like a headshot or something to compensate for the poor fire rate the weapon has compared to a lead-spewing automatic, meaning that sometimes you just get donked, and that's your life. And again, this can happen to you at a very heavy range deficit. Or almost worse, it can still happen to you even after you close the gap. And third and finally, because of the aforementioned 2 points, snipers are very incentivized to hide somewhere where it's quite difficult to find them and to ambush players who would have a hard time figuring out where they are. And this goes double for if the sniper can find a good perch that gives them a great vantage point to rain down shots on unsuspecting victims. Basically, the formula here is a teaspoon of being one shot, a heaping helping of being one shot at a distance you can't really fight back from, and a dash of being one shot at a distance you can't fight back from against an enemy you might not really be able to see. They're picking people off without a care in the world in their nice little safe nest, and you're bobbing and weaving for your life, fighting against, at best, a little scope glint across the map. All of this combines to make snipers feel rather antithetical to what makes a shooter exciting. Just for like a visual example, what looks like more fun here? This intense firefight over the objective where players are repositioning and firing wildly at the hordes of their enemies while bullets and grenades zip past them. Or this sniper gameplay. Oh my god! That was not meant for you to see. I meant to send that to somebody else. I meant this sniper gameplay. Personally, I know which one I like more. Don't tell anybody you saw. This has all led to a, in my opinion, very reasonable backlash towards this type of design, which is a little bit funny because snipers themselves have actually gotten a lot weaker, or at the very least they haven't really gotten any better for sure, and yet they're hated a lot more than I think they used to be, probably just because more people are talking about things just in general. Like, have you seen the Unreal Tournament sniper rifle? That thing is a crime. And I think that this is because that while the weapons themselves are not more powerful, everything around them is also significantly weaker. Movement especially has toned down a lot as shooters have progressed. Games just aren't as fast, and players just aren't as agile or as free to move as they once were. Not to mention that weapon design homogenization, the fact that in a modern shooter, a lot of the guns are all kinda the same thing. Like, automatic lead spewer with a pretty big magazine probably accurately describes a great deal of the arsenal of a lot of games. Just to quickly explain what I mean, in something like Quake or Team Fortress, if someone is holding an angle with the sniper or the railgun or whatever, it can be quite powerful, but the speed and the weapon design of a game like that affords you many different ways to approach somebody who is being static. For example, you can just rocket jump onto their position and fly in from the sky and blow them up. You can lob grenades from beyond a corner where their sniper rifle just can't shoot back. Or you could simply, especially in the case of an arena shooter, just run at them really fast, and if they don't kill you on your approach, you have a much better chance of killing them in the short range with a weapon that's a lot easier to use than they do. Whereas in like Battlefield, COD, any other number of different games like that, 83, whatever, you could sprint at them, or shoot at them with your rifle that's probably not nearly as good at that range, and try not to die.
Yeah, reported. This is bullying.
I think this is why we see snipers having evolved into what they are today. If you can't really move and shoot, and everybody around you can't really move and shoot, and everybody moves very linearly, and all of their guns only really shoot in like basically a straight line, why not park yourself somewhere where you can see all the avenues of approach and just pick people off? You've got the ranged advantage, you might as well use it. You have no incentive to move. They have very little ability to move relatively, and if they want to shoot at you, they probably have to stop moving or reduce their movement, so it's really no wonder to me that snipers became an issue. But is there a better way? Alright, I'm done being coy. Play the fucking Kraber montage. Of course it can be done better. It was done better before it was done crap. By the way, that sequence cost me $56, so if you don't fucking subscribe, I'm gonna feed you to the man-eating slug in my basement. And in my opinion, Titanfall is a fantastic example, and on the individual weapon basis, I think it has the best snipers that have ever been penned. The thing about snipers in Titanfall is that because of a series of systematic and also individual design decisions, they're really not even that good, and for those same reasons, they're also incredibly fun. At least some of them. Let's break it down. Guys, you know I can't dance anymore. Not after the accident. By talking about the two sniper rifles in the game that are very similar to what you might traditionally think of as a sniper, and why they don't work as well. Those two weapons are the longbow and the triple take. As far as like actual traditional sniping goes, the longbow is probably the second best gun in the game for it. Which is really funny because I think it's the most purpose-built weapon in the game for it. It just isn't as good at it as the G2, which is technically a rifle. But when you're thinking of sniping, these would be the two weapons that you're thinking of. And on paper, they sound like they would be a big pain in the ass. The triple take, or I guess technically the double take, even though it fires 3 bullets, so it is the triple take, fires 3 bullets in a sort of fanning pattern, making it a lot easier to hit a target with at least one of them. And the longbow has an incredibly good rate of fire, very high damage like a 1-shot headshot or 2 shots anywhere else, and doesn't have to lead its shots. So from a distance, there's very few weapons that are, I would say, as overall efficient at killing people as this thing. Ironically, this makes it an exceptional counter sniper because nothing else at these extreme ranges is quite as good. And if you miss, it shoots fast enough that you can try to make up for it. These both sound like they should be causing problems. One is like brutally efficient at killing people even out to really long ranges, and the other one can hit people even if you don't really aim right on them. So why aren't these causing a problem? And the answer is very simply movement. White people love movement in shooters. They love movement shooters. Just ask one of them and I'm sure they'll be very excited to tell you about like tap strafing in Apex or whatever the hell you do in Rivals. Movement as a concept is one of those things that is very well appreciated by enthusiasts and consumers, I think pretty much across the board, except Battlefield players, apparently. Movement gets a lot of, deserved by the way, credit for being a great method of skill expression. But movement isn't just something you add to a game to make skillful players hard to hit, or to give them cool stuff to do. It is very good at those things, for sure, but what I think I hear less about, just like anecdotally, is that movement is an integral or foundational part of your shooter design. Movement informs everything from what kind of weapons work in your game and how players approach one another, which has massive consequences for every minute of gameplay. Titanfall 2's movement is by no means perfect, but it is very good, especially for 2 reasons for our discussion. It's fast, and it's very free. Just the fact that players in Titanfall can be highly mobile and shoot accurately at the same time and can scale vertical geometry decently with the right loadout or circumstances places immense pressure on traditional snipers. The thing about the longbow and the triple T is that while SMGs, shotguns, and some LMGs and pistols can be very accurate while on the move, these two just can't. The longbow will spread like crazy if you're not aiming down sights and are therefore slow, and the triple take, while it is relatively accurate when not aimed down sights, has no crosshair. Now of course you could pretty easily cheat one in, like for example my monitor has like a built-in crosshair addition function. So the next time somebody tells you just to make better anti-cheat, tell them how to detect that. But if you do that, or you use something like X crosshair or whatever, we are going to have to find you and throw you down the crevice of teeth. That's just how it is. That's the rules. Either way, these weapons are at an inherent disadvantage compared to many of their counterparts. In something like, for instance, Battlefield, movement and shooting are very separate. Some weapons can walk and fire effectively at closer ranges, but only a few, and they can only walk. In many modern games, typical movement kinda looks like this. You sprint from one location to another, you possibly jump or slide or jump slide into combat to engage an enemy, and then someone Swiss cheeses the other, and you return to sprinting to another position. Unless you're like holding an objective or something. Since effectively, no one or very few people can remain mobile and accurate at the same time, the downside of being stationary with a sniper rifle isn't as heavily felt because many other weapons are suffering from the same universal restriction, and most of those that aren't, like a shotgun, can't fight back until they get really close, and you can kill them before they get there. In Titanfall, this just isn't how things go. Titanfall players can move and shoot all the time, but snipers cannot. This turns what used to be a point in the sniper's favor, or at worst a wash, the fact that enemies have to slowly trudge into their line of sight, and worse, sit still to fire back, into something that is a genuine class-wide downside. The same goes for how this translates into how players go about approaching a stagnant enemy. For example, let's say we have a roof. No, a roof. Yes, at the top of this roof is a sniper, perched way up where he can see over half the map and take shots at anyone who isn't especially protected. To get this guy normally, with traditional movement, you might have to run all the way to his building, and then all the way up his building through choke points like stairs or an elevator or something, or take like a ladder or get to a connected roof. All the while, the sniper can see or hear you and prepare to defend his base, assuming you get that far before he plinks you. In Titanfall, players can do this. Suddenly, your zenithal perch is no longer an uncontestable god spot that requires counter-sniping or vehicles or a crazy rush to challenge. Now it's your uncovered tomb where you aren't moving and shooting, but some other guy is, and probably with weapons that are better closer up than what you have. It helps to flip the script on the usual sniper problem, and usual snipers suffer as a result. This forces snipers to be more active as well, assuming they're being properly challenged. You can't just sit in your cozy little spot and take people's chains all day, because if you do, they'll fly into you, or get their big-ass robot and blow up your entire apartment complex. As a result, snipers are forced into a more active role to keep themselves from being headhunted in the same spots. This already does a lot to disrupt the gameplay that people typically have an issue with. Making snipers move on its own forces them to play more like everyone else and opens them up to being stationed in weaker spots or getting killed in between camps. At the very least, it puts them on more of the same playing field that everyone else is at. They have to move more often, just like everyone else does. Now, being honest, Titanfall doesn't do this perfectly. I will enter into evidence this fuck-ass one-way particle wall that boosts the damage of the user and blocks the damage of everyone else. Genuinely some of the dumbest shit I ever saw, but fun fact about AWOL, this is actually the first game mechanic ever designed using an LLM trained exclusively on the writings of Shiro Ishii, director of Unit 731. And there are still some further choices that make camping annoying with the right toys. Controller, or maybe Chronos, users with a G2 can basically just sit up somewhere and let the aim assist do the job for them. Because Titanfall aim assist is a blight on the game on PC, but we won't get too far into that. You know. Yep. Freedom of movement extends beyond just allowing you to fight and fly at the same time. Like with our roof example, players in Titanfall can literally just approach an enemy from more different angles. When their wings aren't clipped, players are far more capable of invading the space of a sniper, or really anybody, from directions they aren't necessarily prepared for. Like, what's the hardest here? Shooting somebody that you know has to follow the plane of the ground, resisting the urge to kill your boss with a steak knife when they deny your PTO, or shooting a girl who can fly in from anywhere? It's basic stuff. And this is a tiny bit more impactful for snipers specifically because they have to scope in to shoot accurately, traditionally, which is just that little bit more dangerous when there's more sides of the screen that somebody could come in from. And this isn't to mention that Titanfall also equips players with a great deal of ways of uprooting campers. You have stun grenades, frag grenades, vortex grenades that literally pull players into their center and out from cover, wall hack producing knives, grapple hooks that can pull you into enemies for a melee kill, or just fling you around the map, cloak to sneak up on them, stim shots to run at them really fucking fast, mines that seek out their own targets, all in addition to regular counter-sniping. Oh, and the giant robots they can't really damage with their tiny snipers. And these aren't like inaccessible things either, I guess outside of Titans. These are just like normal parts of your loadout, like your grenade choice or your tactical ability. Not to mention, again, in combination with the lack of an aim penalty for moving, or the relative lack of an aim penalty for moving, a lot of guns can be surprisingly accurate at longer ranges, even stuff like the Volt SMG, which you wouldn't traditionally think is a long-range type of gun. This gives snipers even more competition to work against. Competition that probably shoots a lot faster than they do. All of this combines to make an environment that is, or at least can be with a little bit of effort, more hostile to camping than you normally get. And that's why you're probably not going to see a lot of longbows and triple takes. So if these two snipers are largely out, which ones are in? And this is where the magic happens. Did anybody else just see like a scary horse? It just ran past right? God damn, if these aren't the two coolest snipers, and I mean that too. What you're witnessing right here are the Kraber and the Wingman, if you've never played the game, or I guess Apex. This right here is the revolver that's really fun and kills you, and the sniper that's really, really fun and really kills you. We'll start with the Wingman because it's smaller and therefore easier to conceal into the club. The Wingman is dead simple, exhilarating fun. I know only 5 people in the audience have ever actually played Quake, but this is the railgun from Quake. You point it at people, it shoots a hit scan bullet, and sometimes they die. This is literally about as simple of a gun as you can make in an FPS game. It just draws the ray trace and checks to see if it hits somebody. And it is incredibly fun because of it. Now, the fact that the Wingman is not automatic sadly excludes it from ever really being a top-tier weapon, even though it can one-shot people with a headshot. But frankly, it's so much fun it doesn't really matter. It is FPS in one of its purest forms. Some of you who've watched my videos for a while might know that I'm kind of like the revolver and the shotgun guy. And this weapon combines the best parts of the weapons that I've been talking about on this channel and why I like them, and the best parts of what makes Titanfall Titanfall. The uncompromising accuracy and the fact that you only get 6 shots and you can't hold down the trigger like everybody else creates a deliciously challenging playstyle that allows you to really focus on why you're playing this game. You're here to go fast and to shoot people. It's just like going on I-95. Don't get me wrong, it's really frustrating. There are gonna be a lot of times where you miss just like one crucial shot and you can't shoot quite as fast as you could with other weapons, meaning that you lose. And sometimes you'll be tempted to go and look at one of the SMGs and wonder why you're not just using one of those, because it seems like it's kind of the same thing, but a lot easier. And that's not a bad criticism to make. And then you rip off somebody's wig with your first shot, and you remember why you're doing this. Also, killing somebody with a Wingman is like an aura blast. You're just mogging everybody you kill with this. Now, if you're watching this video in the post-apocalyptic future of 2065, mogging is what we used to call glorfting someone. It's kind of weird to call this a sniper. After all, it's not in the sniper category. It's a pistol, it doesn't scope in the same way that a sniper does, but it uses sniper ammo in Apex, and also I don't fucking care. But there is only one sniper in this game cooler than even this. Oh, that's good. Sorry, I promised you guys I wouldn't do any more Elvish Coke. No, but the Kraber is great too. If you're one of my Team Fortress fans, the Kraber is this game's Market Gardener, if the Market Gardener was bad. And if you're not one of my Team Fortress 2 fans, what I mean by that is that the Kraber is a clip farmer weapon. And that means that the Kraber is awesome because nobody clip farms with a boring weapon. And the Kraber is not that. The Kraber is like the opposite of everything that is wrong with every other sniper rifle. You're not sitting on your ass with this thing. You are not leveraging stealth and distance. In fact, the Kraber's actually not really that good at a distance. What you are doing is grappling so that you go fast as fuck, you are flying directly at a guy with a better gun than you, and then you are quick-scoping him and smashing the shit out of your shadow play record button, or you die. It's so much fun, and so much more fair and active for every other player. Getting killed by a sniper in, like, every other game comes with a fair amount of valid excuse-making that you can do. We don't really like making excuses on this channel, but I will say that I think it's very reasonable to have issues with and to make excuses about getting killed by a sniper rifle under normal circumstances. It's inherently not that even, and that's okay. A lot of things in a lot of games aren't even, and that's actually good. If you're playing two different characters in like a character-based game, a hero shooter or a fighting game or whatever, they're going to have different weapons, different amounts of health, different abilities or whatever. That's what makes games fun. This is not only uneven, it's a little bit unfair, and worse than that, it's unfair in a way that isn't really fun to deal with, at least most of the time. If you get killed by the Kraber, there is no coping. That is completely your fault. Like, I'm sorry it happened, but that was all on you. The Kraber is, in almost every conceivable way, worse than whatever gun you're holding. The fire rate is abysmal. The bullets, like the actual shot, is slower than every other gun in the game except for the EPG, which is more like a rocket launcher. So you have to account for leading your target, and for bullet drop, unlike every other weapon in the game. The capacity is really nothing special. A lot of guns in this game can hold like 30 bullets, this one can hold
6.
And again, unlike the Wingman, it accesses those 6 very, very slowly. There's no crosshair, so hip firing is kind of a crapshoot, and the reload is really nothing special. And also, it's kind of sticky. I'm not really sure why. It's made of metal. The only thing that saves this weapon, and the point at which the entire design hinges upon, is the fact that the Kraber kills people in one shot, no questions asked. No needing a headshot, no needing to be close range, nothing. And all of this is what combines to make the Kraber such a great design. It is so incredibly slow. It takes you an age to rechamber, and the bullets you're firing are slower than everybody else's. In addition to the fact that you're probably going to have to aim down sights more often to fire accurately than a lot of other weapons have to, even at closer ranges. And that's what makes the Kraber the quick-scope gun. You often will only have, assuming the other guy knows that you're there, one shot to kill somebody with the Kraber. Again, you're very unlikely to be sitting around and hard-scoping with the Kraber, because as an actual sniper rifle, it's kinda just worse than options like the longbow. The bullets are slower and harder to hit, and if you miss, it takes longer to get to your next shot. The longbow, you can just click away as fast as you want. Same with like the triple take, and at least with the triple take, it's a lot better closer up because you don't have to have a super high zoom scope on it. If you're standing around with this thing and shooting at people from long range, it's just going to be harder to use, and the margin of error is a lot smaller, which is why you don't stand around and shoot people at this thing from across the map. You fling yourselves at them. You only get 2 shots, you might as well spend them moving so you're a little harder to hit. Mind you, that is 2 shots at best. A lot of times you're only going to get 1 chance to hit somebody, which is what makes this weapon so much fun, and if you're only going to have 1 shot, and if you miss, you probably die, it would be better to be moving so you're harder to hit, and getting into a range where you're comfortable, and that usually doesn't mean from across the map. It can, but it usually doesn't. And the less time you take with each shot, the more active you can be and try to do something defensive like move away from somebody you missed or move away from one of their allies or something. And also, it's really cool. Let's not pretend we're above doing something just because it's cool here. And the Kraber is cool because it is basically nothing like a traditional sniper. It solves the problem by not contributing to it. And this is the kind of sniper that I think is actually a lot of fun. The kinds of snipers that are, like not sitting around, playing a more active, a more engaging hit-and-run style. And while I think Titanfall has the best of these with this weapon, it's not the only game that's figured this out. Quake kind of just naturally had you do this, at least a lot of the time, because you were so fast. And the Finals is another game that does this. The Finals gives the only, real dedicated sniper rifle, though there are other weapons that are good at a range, to the fastest and flimsiest character, the one who minds being shot the most and is the most capable of moving around quickly, which makes the character very good at playing like this. You could use this weapon as a hard scoper, but you wouldn't want somebody else to have sex with your boyfriend, would you? Because that's kind of how it sounds. This really scratches the itch for me, and I think this is a really fun way to play pretty much any game where I've been allowed to play like this. This is probably never going to happen, let's just be real, but I would be very happy to see snipers slowly, or quickly, shift away from this incredibly passive, still, ambush style of play into something more like what you see with the Kraber, a much more active, incredibly committal, and rewarding but risky style of play. And the Kraber is such a good example because it takes all of this to like a slightly further extreme. The Kraber isn't cool because of any one of the little pieces that make up its design, it's because of the sum of its parts. The level of mastery it takes to do cool things with the Kraber is something I think anybody can appreciate, even if you're the victim of it. The range people have to play at, the type of aim you have, just because the bullets are that little bit slower than they are for every other weapon in the game, which messes with your muscle memory. The short windows of opportunities that you can even take, the fact that you are, generally speaking, the prey in any fight that you're a part of, unless you're that guy. This is why the Kraber is still the centerpiece of any highlights reel for this game. It's just too damn cool. And that does conclude our 4 traditional, 3 sort of, sniper rifles, but wait, there's more. There are 2 more weapons that are kind of sniper rifles. I probably wasn't gonna mention them, but then I thought, like, you know, if the Wingman's here, I probably should, just for completeness' sake, because if I don't, someone's gonna tell me I didn't in the comments. In fact, even if I do, someone's still gonna do that. But the 2 we're missing here are the charge rifle and the North Star's railgun. Now, I didn't include these 2 because they're a little bit different. I mean, the railgun is a Titan weapon. It's not on the pilot, so it's very different. And the charge rifle is an anti-Titan weapon. But I will briefly mention them. North Star is the sniper/long-range Titan. And while North Star is quite slow and would benefit from the traditional playstyle, it's not really a problematic Titan. It's not hard to kill a North Star, it has very little health, and it's not particularly good at dealing with pilots because the railgun fires really slow rounds. As you can imagine, it's good at long range, but if any other Titan can close the gap, it's like over. And the charge rifle, again, isn't like a primary, it's more so used for dealing with Titans. But it can kill people in one shot at a very long range, it just has like an exceptionally bad fire rate for doing so. And as the name suggests, it has to charge up to be able to fire, so you either have to maintain line of sight, or at least be visible to the other person who can kill you way faster, or time it just right so that you appear and acquire your target right as the weapon goes off. So it very rarely ever ends up being even an effective weapon, let alone a problem. So yeah, that's pretty much it. As it turns out, when you don't let snipers just plant roots on the other side of the map from everybody that's expected to fight them, they're a lot more fun. And frankly, even if you let them do that, they're not nearly as much of a problem when you let players do stuff to close the gap. I honestly think you could keep it so that snipers have a range advantage over every other class of weapon, just don't make it so absolute. Even just making it so that snipers are like really good at a medium range puts them in competition with a lot of other weapons, or at least makes them vulnerable to them. This is one of those things where I don't think the solutions are really that complicated, and with a little bit of work allow us to reach a much better conclusion. After all, it's not like Titanfall really does anything specifically spectacular that makes sniping worse. It just takes away a lot of the creature comforts they have to allow them to play in that specific way. This is another one of those casualties of the general stagnation that shooters have been mired in for however long it's been now. For example, the finals is not really that fundamentally different than like every other shooter we've gotten for the last whatever long. At its core, we're still like sprinting and sliding and using aim down sights machine guns, but its willingness to just allow stuff to happen and to do silly things alongside good mechanics like damage fall off makes the game not only more exciting, but also makes it so a lot of these issues just aren't as bad as they could be, and have been. And I think it's a good sign that like a modern and supported game like this is doing well. Now if only they could add the Kraber.